Keys to the what? The spaceship. Keys to the spaceship. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Oh, let's go for that.
Gonna buy you a spaceship, girl, we can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get it. Now no one's gonna buy you a spaceship, girl, we can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get it. Yeah. Let's talk about promises, let's see if you can keep it. We can be a secret, we've been creeping, freaking like the freaknet. Talk about your night, tweet it then delete it. All because it sounds so misleading when you read it. It describes something getting killed and we might be up in the precinct. The only thing I killed was that pussy and I quote it. But you remember that your man got your password and he know it. It make him wanna just like Marvin Gaye, FP call today. Girl, just tell him namaste. He need peace, but you know I want the whole thing, girl. When you be with me, continue sliding out them doors. Now you got my pants rising like a star.
Oh my God!
Now all stars arise, twinkling little star of mine. Look, now Dolo's gonna buy you a spaceship, girl. We can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get this, yeah. Now Dolo's gonna buy you a spaceship, girl. We can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get this, yeah. Your girl hit my jacket and I ain't talking about it. Tell her. And now she's so wet, jump on me the umbrella. Ella. Yeah, and you gonna need me. Yeah, she's a bad girl like me. Girl, touch me, tease me. What we doing, they can't be on TV. Oh yeah, I'ma make it scream. This love that we making divine. The kitty is making me slide, taking my time, looking at baby you mine. We can fly, know you anticipating the ride. I'm a beast. Yeah, girl, I'm trying to make you scream like I did on this beat. Gonna fly you a spaceship, girl, we can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get this dick. Now Lola's gonna fly you a spaceship, girl, we can fly away. You can stay up in the starship, in the cockpit, yeah, you can get this dick. Yeah.
Underwater, we underwater. AKA back in hell. Shell. I said shell. You know what I'm saying? Because YouTube, sometimes you be forgetting the pronunciations and stuff like that. You're back in the shell. Y'all played that video game and watched that cartoon Ghost in the Shell? By any chance? By any chance? Where are the creative people at? Man, there used to be some creative people. They're coming back. Creative people back, though. I'm going to tell you right now. Creative people back. And I'm going to show you how to get back to your spiritual space also. But listen, check me out. We're going through a transit right now where people have to understand how to become strong spiritually or whatever the case may be. Because you might be weak. And when you weak, it's always going to be terms that you use vicariously, if that's the word. That might not be the word for it or stuff like that. But you might find yourself sitting back going through hard times, trials and tribulations or whatever, and saying, I can't uphold all this. How can I get through this? How can I rise above? You know what I'm saying? Last time I checked, if you was in the sports or whatever, and you see somebody exercise, you'll probably be in the mind looking for to do some same type of stuff somebody doing physically, whatever. When someone lost in the physical world and they don't know that they doing that in the mind, they withdraw their spirit and fatigue themselves in areas due to the fact of the accumulation, the reciprocation. But, they end up being one of those most degenerate individuals that's in their family, friend, or associate or coworker life when they reach those spiritual backs against the wall and unwarranted energy come out because they got all that pent up energy or whatever the case may be. A lot of times you be wanting to be in your space and do other things, but due to the fact of your obligations and your responsibilities, it may make you justify those. And a lot of those things that you justify, you put in the back seat, and a large percentage scale be your morality a part of it or whatever. So a large percentage scale of your morality will go in the back seat also, just for you to drive in the driver's seat of thinking you lit, thinking you getting attention. You know what I'm saying? Thinking you somebody. You ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying? And that might have been the hardest thing somebody ever said or whatever. You can't handle. Shout out to Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. You ain't nobody. Whoever said that. Who said that? Rest in peace, Bernie Mac. You know what I'm saying? You think you was DJ Quick? You know what I'm saying? You think you was Kid Capri? Man, you ain't nobody. You think you was Jimmy Walker? Better than that. Better than that. You ain't nobody. Shout out Jack Nicholson. Rest in peace, Bernie Mac. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people say certain things that it stick in your pineal gland or whatever the case may be, and you never forget it because it's the truth. You ain't nobody because without that mind, first form, without the physical, second form, and external world that you participate in, you ain't nobody because you're part of God. No thing. So no shape and form. If you read the Bible, even Europeans was intelligent. They even tell you it's non-corporeal. You know what I'm saying? Whether you a hater or other people want to claim they knew something or didn't know something or they stole something from other people or whatever, sometimes y'all be misguided and pointing that in the wrong direction. Sometimes in areas y'all claim somebody got something for something. No, they came up with that. Sometimes things y'all claim, you know what I'm saying? Y'all be all over the place. But you have to understand everybody in all backgrounds got a spiritual nature or however the case may be. That's where building come from. So if you give everybody respect, you not allowing your bias to get in the way of anything. A lot of times, it's tricky. You would have your bias connected with a large portion of other individuals that may be like-minded or whatever, right? But still, low key, the bias itself will blind you from an outside reference bias or however, even when that comes to people or a group of individuals. And you could be so hyped with that bias, it'd be like how we're lost in the synthetic world, what Michael Jordan taught us. The meanings behind it we ain't paying attention to. You just know you want them Jordans or whatever the case may be. So the meaning behind your bias you ain't paying attention to. You just want whatever you think you get ready to fight for or whatever you think you get ready to create a negative bias towards other individuals for. Then that separates you from having the understanding of everybody got their own meanings and reasonings behind what they do things, and that come from a spiritual nature in general. So you would have to look at yourself in the esoteric mirror to even question if you spiritual or someone who lost an ego or a bias and attaching the word spirituality to it, attaching morality to it or whatever. Really, you just unhealthy and trying to attract other individuals to get on some type of degenerate path or road that you probably already on. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times when we don't know how to peak game and check ourselves, this is how we make mistakes or lead other individuals into mistakes. Then we want to cover it up like we ain't had nothing to do with it. And then this is where you get someone else blaming somebody else about them not being aware of. If we talking about the music industry, you want to blame the artist for not being aware of the contract. You the lawyer, you the A&R, whatever the case may be. You were supposed to know stuff about it that the artist ain't know or whatever the case. But that's for all individual situation. That's even like when you're in jail. First thing a person to tell you is you go into that library and you go the book of law or whatever. What's the song Papoose got? Library, we'll talk about the alphabet and all the library law books and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing somebody will tell you. You better get some understanding for yourself. Just living out here and not understanding what space you in could get you withdrawn. And when we start to talk about spiritual strength, a lot of times our first cloths, our first things that we lift up is how we make up our first body. And we're plucking from different thought forms, different feelings to condense that to become our cloth. And when you're holding on to too many of these things, it become unbearable. So it condense and become your physical circumstances that you start considering unbearable or things you need assistance with and things of that nature. So a lot of times you're carrying too much of a load. But it start with ideas. Then you then allow them to become feelings and emotions. Now you got a collection of those thoughts, feelings, those thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions. And there, a lot of them need to be let go. A lot of them need to be put in the dark. A lot of them need to be looked at a different way, so you can have different expressions once they start to duplicate themselves, and then you start to play out yourself in the world. A lot of times this is where a lot of presuppositions come from, prejudging come from, and faulty areas or whatever. And then y'all would point that in areas when it comes to your family, friends, associates, and coworkers. And then y'all always have to go through those small animosity arguments or whatever the case may be in order to rectify something, or for someone to still be lost into an ego and think that whatever that they was doing was still right, or whatever the case may be, which is just being a toxic individual. You know what I'm saying? Not getting out of your own funk, your own mind, your own toxicity. And a lot of times there's a lot of people who think they're spiritually strong that's spiritually weak in that area. It'll play out in the physical world that someone who's very physique or whatever the case may be, but still can't fight, or very physique or whatever the case, but it doesn't mean nothing. Or however, you know what I'm saying, they still ain't strong, they weak and puny, or however the case may be, whether it's emotionally, mentally, or even when it comes to physically a lot of times. Because, you know, you see a lot of Billy Blinks out here, they just really be big old hot air balloons or whatever, and you poke them one time, they inflate, and they got all the muscles for nothing. You know what I'm saying? And that take experience. You got to know that. And that's not everybody. But if you've been around the spiritual and physical block a few times, you know what I'm talking about, you know, whatever the case may be. And even a small individual that got the heart of a giant or whatever would know how they can persevere a lot of situations than the average individual that may run around and got the kneecap and head of Billy Blanks or whatever the case. And it could be intimidating from a distance or whatever, but it's about the heart. You know what I'm saying? Now, your heart ain't gonna stop you from getting those stab wounds or nothing puncture through you with nothing that, you know what I'm saying, colonists and created and stuff like that that could damage an individual's flesh. You know what I'm saying? So pick your battles, pick your poison. Hey, you should be respectful anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're in a respectful space, it puts you in not crossing boundaries or respecting biases or whatever the case. So even if it's something that you may dislike, it don't place you into a situation of over exaggerating or needing to be extra reactionary towards it, like you're actually trying to change something you can't change. And a lot of individuals need to understand that you need to be in a position of only try, if you're in that energy trying to change things you can change. Anytime you're trying to change something you can't change, you're lost in expectation, and then you're going to be developing thought forms and actions and having an expectation of what you think going to be a response from it in some way, shape, or form. And then now you're just taking fruit from the devil. And depending on how hard the devil got you working and how much you need participants or whatever, that's going to take more of the percentage scale of whatever that you think you got going on, other than anything else that could be catering to your creativity, catering to something that's productive, catering to something that could be suitful or helpful for yourself and others. So a lot of times when people don't understand that, you know, they go into a life of the devil, they go into a life of expectation, and then they start to work hard for what they think the outcome of whatever that they expect that they're working hard for. And then for the most part, you can't save these individuals. But a lot of times, a lot of these individuals get led by Michael Jordan, and then it doesn't necessarily have to do with Michael Jordan. I'm just using that as an allegory. White collar, blue collar business, or regular person, or however the situation you in. You know what I'm saying? A person may get lost on what the thing have to offer, and then that get them misguided as a spirit. And then for the most part, they're willing to take whatever it takes for whatever that expected from them and whatever that they expect based upon doing with what's expected from them or whatever. But you know, a lot of people have these type of individuals in their life, like family, friends, associates, and coworkers, that you're able to see how it start to play out a lot of times, how you can see how this person may be damaged, or this group of people may be damaged to a certain degree, or where they're utilizing things to overcompensate how they truly feel about something. But due to the fact of what they're utilizing to overcompensate, it may have a position of persevering, breadwinner, being the authority position at the moment. You know what I'm saying? Being able to utilize as a form of ego to cast a stone whenever a person don't want to appear to be looked down upon, when other things like morality or other emotional states and things like that come to play. And you can't argue with a lot of these things also, because how can you argue with someone if you can't afford a pair of Jordans? So depending on the person wearing a pair of Jordans and their attitude, is only so far you can go if they could bring up all kind of concepts of why you don't got a pair of Jordans though. Y'all get what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And if you're spiritual enough, you'll be able to see from a distance how this person is toxic, but how we didn't got so lost into the world with terms and agreements amongst each other, and it's more percentage scale of lost individuals. How can you argue with that? So you place yourself into a situation where you have to learn Martian energy, separation. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to separate in some way, shape, or form, or detach. Because if you don't, a lot of these things are going to be larger on a percentage scale of the need of fulfillment when it comes time to a person wanting to participate. Everything is a balance. So it's portions of time you want alone, and it's portions of time you want to be with others. But anytime is uneven, you know how that play out. You too much time alone, you might express yourself, and if you don't know how to harness it, you may crash out when your time is around other individuals. Being around too many other individuals and things of that nature, you start feeling that pressure of needing time alone or whatever. And if you don't get it, you start to crash out on these individuals to actually get it in some way, shape, or form, or whatever circumstance or situation, or shave your head like Britney Spears, however the case it may be. But at the same time, this is how you know that you're supposed to even and balance it out, or whatever the case. So once you understand that, then you know what you're dealing with. Then you know how to just jump in and jump out, right? So you know when it's that time to be alone, and you know it's that time to participate. But throughout that whole time, other things is mattering. Your morals, your creativity, your intentions. And that takes us right into what we get ready to talk about, because everything is built on intent. So if your spirit ain't in the right space, your intent is always going to be your first gadget, because your intent develops awareness. And once you develop awareness, now you're playing the game, the esoteric game, for you to even be here in the first place, because mentality comes from awareness. Awareness is thought and feeling, which condense and become a mentality. Then that becomes your organ, and then that's what you could express and participate with, or things of that nature, right? So your intent always is going to be the first thing. But if your spirit ain't in the right place, you're still going to have to use the gadget of intent. But if it's negative or unproductive, you're going to have to get into other creative attributes that lessen the natural ability to create. You're going to have to use intellectual or creative attributes to be able to lie, or cover up something in some way, shape, or form, because the intent is not genuine, or is not in sync or relatable. So you have to second question or justify if it's even something to be presentable in the first place. But if that fruit from expectation is higher on a percentage scale when it comes to what's germane to you or applicable to you, then for the most part, you get lost into the devil, because you expect something to be purely germane to your bias, purely germane to what you want, or whatever the case may be. So you'll start to get answers from the devil, expectations, when a spirit in that space, to not make it spooky, not an anthropomorphized person, a spirit utilizing being in that spiritual space, creating the energy of expectation, or whatever the case may be. Then you'll go down that path or whatever, and then now you're working for the devil, because you're working for what you expect, and every day ain't promised, or whatever, or same situations and circumstances ain't promised. So there's God in everything, all possibilities, newness, because there's a birth of something every day, so that brings God. But something that's familiar, repetition, it start to get closer to under the layer of expectation. And if you're not utilizing expectation for positive measures when you are experiencing God, all possibilities, the small little portions of things you can't expect, can save you, or protect you, or prepare you, or have you more sufficient when it comes into your creativity or your visualization throughout something, or whatever the case may be. But when you get lost in expectation, anything new, you'll be blinded to being able to see it, and you'll only be trying to create a new way of doing the same thing. So it leads into insanity. Doing the same thing, thinking you're going to get different results. Saying the same jokes, thinking you're going to get the same reciprocation and laugh the next concert, or the next comedian show. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, you have to learn these energies within yourself before it even be expressed. And you'll start to see how much gold that you start to duplicate, to the point that you won't even have these problems. And you'll be able to maintain your position, or whatever that you're into, when it comes into your creative attributes, or the things that you want to build yourself up in. You know what I'm saying? Because it's about being witty. Now, when we start to talk about spiritual strength itself, right, you're going to an esoteric Planet Fitness. So the original mission is going to be your attention. So that's why I even broke that down. But here's the thing. Your intent could be faulty. Your intent could be based on something like, I'm not going to get that job unless it pay me enough that I could get Michael Jordan's. You know what I'm saying? So the job ain't about experiencing and being able to develop people skills that could go a lot further, just like having grace, or just like having compassion, or whatever, like, or being a good person. These things go further, because when we start talking about distance in the esoteric world, It doesn't matter what you're surrounded by in the physical world. It's different outcomes. And if the outcome can expand and go to distance in things that go in your favor, then that shows how something go further. And you're able to get grace in these areas, or however the case may be. So you could be doing the same thing somebody else doing, both of y'all robbing banks or whatever. But due to the fact of how you did it and what type of connections that you had or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Other matters mean more or whatever. Kind of like being in a city or state, I'm sorry, Mississippi or something. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody is communion or whatever. So if a mistake happened, a lot of individuals is going to communicate with the local police or local whatever the case may be. And since there's a communion going on, a lot of these kids or other individuals and adults are seen as people of the community that may have a future or whatever the case. So when you explain a mistake, instead of it being justice or crime, it's going to be more of how can we create a better situation or whatever the case may be, to the highest form of mistakes all the way to, minor things or whatever, where, I'm saying, things are starting off on a more understandable base when it comes into a city or a state or a communion type of circumstance or however the case. So these are things have to be understand from a moral perspective or a spiritual perspective or things of that nature. So before you get yourself involved in things that you ain't got nothing to do with, it's almost like, you know what I'm saying, you see two individuals, family or friends or whatever, and you met them later. And you see them go through trials and tribulations and up and downs or whatever the case may be. Pause, no homo, right? But, you seen this happen previously, and you see other people give opinions, but you also seen these people get back together and get cool again or whatever the case may be, right? And when you seen that, every individual who have opened their mouth start looking crazy or whatever. So it's kind of like a mind your business kind of situation if you ain't involved. You see what I'm saying? And let God work it out. But when we in these situations, right? When we start to talk about not minding your business or whatever, that may be because your spirit may be weak. So it'll place you into a situation when it comes into not being able to bear certain thoughts or certain feelings or not knowing where they actually come from. And if your intent is not right, then for the most part, that's going to be the first basis of the development. So if you're in the wrong spiritual space, your intent is going to be wrong. If you're in the right spiritual space, your intent is going to be right. And you learn based upon experience what shift that you on. And then here's the thing, it kind of layers itself. So for the most part, it's about evening things out on a percentage scale. It's not about never doing wrong. It's not about always doing right. You know what I'm saying? It's about I tried to do right and I tried not to do wrong. And once you in that kind of energy, then for the most part, even when you do wrong, you get grace. Even when you do right, you know not to over exaggerate, and then for the most part start to utilize that as an ego, and now you expect to get the same results, and now you utilize what God just gave you for the devil. Now it's just an unhealthy ego and fruit that the devil then goddamn created toxic, and now it's like an esoteric fruit with no seed in it. And now for the most part you eating it up, yet you're not fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? Let you still want more, and then the physical representations that you thought you expected probably in front of you 10 times fold, 10 times more, or whatever the case may be, yet couldn't find that satisfaction energy. You know what I'm saying? So one day you're going to wake up and even have ideas of throwing it all away or whatever. It ain't about the things you're throwing away. It's just your spirit showing you getting closer to God or whatever the case may be, right? Something new, something that's different than what you expect or however the case may be. And it just so happened a lot of people got a lot of Michael Jordan shoes or whatever. So, they get tired of that expected validation, that expected love, or however the case may be. And then for the most part, disallow when a spirit don't know they're in that position, this is where those people that you see have a little bit more than you become toxic also or whatever. And you think they shouldn't even be toxic. Why you got that money, all that money, and you still a hater? Why you got all them Jordans and you acting nasty and negative to this validation that you getting or whatever the case? And now y'all truly understand where things is actually coming from a spiritual world. This person is spiritually weak. So they can appear to be Billy Blanks in a physical world, whether material-wise or physical-wise. But if they're spiritually weak, this explains why you see them interacting the way that they're interacting, even when they got things that you think that you want You know what I'm saying? And if you had, you wouldn't be complaining or whatever. But you being in that space, in that time zone of not having and them having, you're able to compare and contrast. So you're able to develop the nuance and the neuron behind what you would do and what you wouldn't do if you was in that position. Because you also still going through experiences where it's higher on a percentage scale of your morality mattering. You know what I'm saying? Actual life mattering. The real things that the average to 97% of the people on the soil is actually going through or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you're able to get in these positions a little later or be able to see from a distance, that's why when you do get in these positions, it's harder for you to get out and you're able to see a lot of people coming and going. But you might get affected thinking that, you know, it'll never be for you, seeing a bunch of people from a distance, not being in a position to see them coming and going. So you'll just be placing blaming God for you not being in a position, family, friends, or whatever the case. And now you're going back into expectation or whatever. So you got to be careful of that. Now, peep game, the original mission is intentions. That leads to productivity. So anytime a person intentions are in a negative space, their outlook on things only points to non-productive portions of the situation or scenario, aka someone, as known as this type of scenario, someone will be productive around this type of individual that's unproductive, right? But intentions is always going to be first, remember. So if a person unproductive around unproductive if a person is unproductive around a productive individual, this how their intentions will play out without even knowing a lot of times. So this how y'all will be able to spot out a person that's on the path to becoming a weak spirit if they haven't been already in that space and not going to the spiritual plane of fitness, right? It'll be someone with productivity around this type of individual, and they'll look past all the things that don't matter about the productive things to judge, and then it just will remind you that they look past all the success and the productivity or whatever the case may be, and the person in that position will only be looking for the unproductive things to communicate about or express. So let's say we're looking at, and I don't want to use celebrities because it could be people that's successful when it comes to mentally and things of that nature amongst their people or however the case may be, right? So instead of looking at that, it might be something about the person's shoes. They ain't got no Michael Jordans or whatever the case may be. So that's the reason why them healing about 10 people or making sense out of a circumstance or situation, those things don't even matter. Or if you want to talk about a celebrity or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? The situation won't be about what this person did. And that's probably one of the things that's linked to what they look like or what they wearing for them to be in that position. Person just be straight up looking at a whole bunch of other stuff and then looking at those things. And you will start to realize that the whole conversation is about the unproductive things. It ain't about none of the things that the person is doing to get in that position. It's about a whole bunch of things that don't even mean anything. So 9 times out of 10, when that person is on their own, they're in a spiritually bad space. So their intentions is all messed up or whatever. So they're only going to be doing unproductive stuff. And 9 times out of 10, their productivity is led into external unproductive things. They're going to be very productive haters. Very, very productive. Let me find something negative within this, even if it ain't nothing negative in it at all, or small on a percentage scale, because there's always going to be some negative and some type of stuff. But for the most part, a damaged individual will make that small percentage scale larger than it necessarily need to be. And these will be people around you that always got something to complain about, or always, you know what I'm saying, or always got something negative about what you actually doing. So you got to keep that in mind. And if you're doing something positive, they got a lot of good ideas that they ain't doing themselves to give you, or whatever the case. So you'll be taking advice from someone that leads you to in the same position that they in, and don't you dare blame them or whatever. And then they're going to be somewhere happy. That's what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? People be happy that you more fucked up than them. And you be thinking people not, or you be thinking people have you and their best interest in their mind or whatever the case, because when you get your 1-2 together, that's the first idea that you get in your mind, because they always take relatable and sync energies. For you to do what you do, that took other individuals. Just every now and then, it take individuals outside of the individuals you probably familiar with, or however the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So once you get that energy, it's reciprocal. It's something that you want to express because it's going through you. It's like the universe is going through you and everything, just like everything in it or whatever the case may be. And you find yourself wanting to do a Hadouken and give that energy off to individuals that you're familiar with, and then that's when you get a taste of what the goddamn world is about. You know? That's when you get a spoiled taste, you know what I'm saying? And then every now and then, fruit without seeds in it. Every now and then, fruits without seeds in it. Sometimes better. Sometimes. Not all the time. You don't want to go, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes. You know what I'm saying? That can play out in the 1, 2, and 3rd dimension, however you want to chop it up. Sometimes the person you went to high school with or whatever the case may be ain't the person you need to be in business with. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the person you share blood with or sometimes don't need to be in the studio with you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's all kind of don't need to be in that movie trailer with you. Don't need to, you know what I'm saying? Don't need to be at volleyball practice with you. However the case, male or female. You know what I'm saying? You got to know how to peak game and know what we actually talking about. It ain't spooky. You know what I'm saying? So intent is everything or whatever. And you got the peak game when it comes into intent, because intent goes far. Just like those other mind things we do that go further than the things we transported and transmuted through as a conduit through the physical and our social norms or whatever the case may be. Like I said, you could be a person that got a good face card, but you got a negative friend, but both of y'all like robbing banks or whatever. Based upon the community or whatever, and who know both of y'all, you may have a little bit more grace because of what you done that ain't had nothing to do with the bank robbery, went further than what actually happened as the bank robbery. You see what I'm saying? Whatever this person was dead, people couldn't wait till he get caught or whatever, because he was just in everybody's grandmama house the night before. You probably showing a lot of energies like, yeah, this is my homeboy, I went to school with him and stuff, but y'all know me, I ain't in y'all stuff. You want me to get your stuff back? Like you playing that role or whatever the case may be. That goes a long way. Spiritual stuff goes a long way when we start to talk about in that aspect and morals and stuff. And a lot of people don't put trust or faith in that concept. So for the most part, they live their life bumping their head a lot of times or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And being more on a percentage scale of having to be the person people can learn from a distance when it comes to mistakes or being intelligent or being wise or whatever. And this is just something that we have to know how to evolve ourselves in. But, you know, I don't even, and I think a lot of people don't even give a lot of people credit in today's time throughout this new shift. Man, everybody is like waking up on even on their own little low stuff and stuff like that. It still play out in stuff that they don't know about in pockets that we never been focused on when it comes to social norms. Like it'd be a social norm that pop up, a person that might be still blinded to it and still care about the Jordans, but the meaning and reasoning behind it has shifted or whatever. That ain't have nothing to do with wanting the Jordans or however the case may be. So we even living in today's time where you better be careful even judging a book by its cover. No, there's gonna be going around, especially when it comes to Gen Z. Y'all be running around looking at them thinking, and they look 45 or some years old or whatever, or you still thinking that they retarded or what y'all call it YN or whatever. Then you mess around and get some life-changing thing that they just said. A lot of people are old souls back. You know what I'm saying? It used to be like a shift, like this time 300 years new spirits come, and then it's lesser on a percentage scale of older spirits. You know what I'm saying? Because we all making a communion with each other. Some get lifted up from animals into the human. You know what I'm saying? All kind of stuff. Then other shifts. We're going through a shift right now. It's large on a percentage scale of the older spirits, the parent spirits, the adult spirits coming back, and it's less on a percentage scale of newer spirits or whatever. And it's about being childlike or being an adult in the spiritual world and how you was living your physical life for you to be on that pattern and path in the first place or whatever. But right now, and not all Gen Z look old or whatever the case may be, but we're all going through a situation of just spirits that's already familiar. So once you're utilizing those mind states that make the shape and form of these kind of organs or whatever the case may be, a lot of times you're jumping into like a mechanism that you're so familiar with, it got a heightened percentage scale of burnt out quality. I'm tired of this quality. You know what I'm saying? I already did this quality to it. So a lot of times you're just using this to do something new, but your spirit ain't quite created those mental shapes to condense to be those new organs yet. So it play out as being fatigued, extremely aware, but then extremely tired, mentally or physically. Extremely creative, but lack of resources of how to get that because the shift and the resources is catered or still grounded on a large percentage scale of the old outdated. So it's stuff you can't use and it's stuff you have to expand with your own body and external physical representations. So you wearing yourself out even when you're just born right now as an old spirit. 3 years old, you got the mind of a 30-year-old and or whatever the case may be. And then for the most part, it'll start to play out because these are mental forms. So familiar mental forms you're building, even when you're using it for the age state when you're born physically, You build a lot of adrenaline also, so it speed up the age rate or even the mental construct also. You know what I'm saying? So people are more intelligent in today's time too. You know what I'm saying? So you have to keep that in mind. Now here's the thing: the shelter create a lot of childlike or childish energy behind it. So there may not be no direction where that creativity can go, or that awareness can go, or that old soul still being in that young body, being able to withdraw that energy through or whatever. Especially being in a respected position. You know what I'm saying? You might not be respected with your awareness or your thought due to the fact that the only thing you have to participate with at the moment is still larger on a percentage scale of the common social norm that's still higher on a percentage scale of being outdated at the moment or whatever. So it's almost like kind of being in limbo, but being a representation also of where the limbo going to weigh itself at. So that's a deep pressure Gen Z have right now, and Gen Alpha. They got a deep pressure right now. So we don't need to be putting too much mental strains on them either. You know what I'm saying? Let's be a little light, be a little spiritual, and then they could get them more motivated into participating with everything when it comes into business, entertainment, education, religion, politics, and all things to get people together or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? But they're the ones that's in the limbo for where the limbo should go, but also out of where the limbo is substantiated on right now. So we all have to sit back and watch, but still have compassion and not throw so much pressure, because too much pressure, we know pressure busts pipes. And if the mentality of the Gen Z and Gen Alpha is in that construct, we could put so much pressure to the point that they throw everything away and say, I don't want to do none of those things. Now we don't have anything to uphold or whatever the case may be. And then you probably end up getting old or whatever, whether you got children or not. And they throw your ass right in the nursing home. You got nobody to take care of you, and you can live in an attic. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care what nobody talking about. I'm living in my daughter's attic. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Or whatever house, you know what I'm saying? However the case may be. You know, that's what they for. That's what you got kids for. You know? Don't put me in no nursing home. Oh, I said don't put me in no nursing home. All this good cartwheels and backflips I'm doing right now. It ain't gonna be in the mind of a child when you be a parent like that. It ain't gonna be in the mind. Like, what if my parent can't do a cartwheel in front of me, even if they're in a wheelchair right now? Nah, I can't see it. I can't see it. No nursing home. No nursing. You know what I'm saying? Your kid to get motivated on their own. You know what I'm saying? When they get older and stuff like that. To work, they had that in the back of their pineal gland. I always got to work my 100% and 120%, because that last 20% is to make sure my parent ain't never in no nursing home. You know what I'm saying? I'm wiping my parents' ass, nobody else. And that's how, and all y'all done lost that from y'all culture. Y'all supposed to understand that too. Don't be letting y'all grandparents, y'all aunties, y'all mothers, y'all fathers, y'all uncles and stuff. Don't let no stranger wipe their booty hole. Don't ever forget your booty hole needed wiped and put a new pamper on, and you was crying and they stuffed like a bottle on your mouth from knowing that your little ass is needed scratched or whatever the case may be. You still crying and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. And that make life much better. You know what I'm saying? And then you'll feel good about getting older or whatever the case. When you ain't got that type of communion, you'll probably hate every day that extend in your life. You know what I'm saying? You'll hate that it's another week. You will hate us another month. You will hate us another year. You will hate that you 10 years older. You will hate that you 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? You don't live no life like that. Because when you won't reverse age. Okay. Every second you worry, the more mental condensity you condense in to become your actual organ structure also. And then you end up having a grandpa, grandma, marshmallow biscuit, oven baked waistline at the age of 17. You know what I'm saying? We seeing that a little too much too. So as I said, stop putting pressure on these Gen Zs. Stop putting pressure on alphas, Gen Zs, and stuff like that. Let them relax a little bit and stuff. They get to it. They get to it. They just gonna have a new space age way of getting to it. They're going to have a whole new space age way of getting to it. Now, here's the thing, right? Now, when you become a spiritual sensei, too, because I had another live stream earlier, but, you know, I don't want to express, too, because my page, y'all know I'm a positive person when I come online and stuff, because we already going through hardship in our regular lives. So anytime you really see me negative online, I'm just reacting to something that was done to me personally, and y'all already know that. So, but I'm only here to help. I ain't here to do any of the other stuff or whatever the case may be. I mind my business and stay out the way. So that's kind of why I really changed the title or whatever. I don't want to put out an energy that where I'm not that in my real life. I like to put out as much potency how I am in my real life when I start to present myself or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I know it may be a lot of people that may be virtue signaling and stuff like that, but you know, I don't necessarily even feel comfortable making up a way I think I should feel how other people react based upon the subject matter or title or whatever the case may be, just to have my little demon spirit to be like, I would never tell that I did this for a feeling, you know what I'm saying? Because I ain't no bitch. But other than that, you know, people getting their money, and if that's the game or whatever the case may be, okay, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I ain't got. I'm just stating my claim or whatever, and why I probably switch the title or whatever the case may be, because it probably had higher on the percentage scale of a negative annotation. Like, just to be spiritual, you automatically got to be in a looking out energy. You automatically got to always think everybody else is not intelligent or not spiritual. And you know, being in that space, you'll prejudge, presupposition, get into an expectation. And I'm wise enough to know, if I'm a teacher, not to throw people, and be aware of percentage scale. And it'll be a large percentage scale individuals will be in of expecting to be catered to the wrong area, to the point that you expecting people you close to not be this and not be that and not be something that I said. So me saying this represents this and this person ain't that, and whatever the case may be. And for the most part, you'll be running around negative. You'll be running around not being light or whatever the case may be, as in weight, when it comes into your spirit. And then you become spiritually weak because now you upholding too many things, thinking that this would other people upholding. So now you self-reflecting. Then once you start self-projecting that, you start creating situations where it'll play out as it not really being that way, that person not really thinking that way, the situation wasn't really about that. Then that's when God will sit you down and make you realize you was tripping. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times it's about having equilibrium and checking yourself, even when you're a teacher also, and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? Or consider yourself as, or you're just a person that's kicking spiritual game, or you just kicking game because it's really just common sense. You know what I'm saying? These things play out in all areas of life. But when we just having a communion, it's filtered throughout this kind of way or whatever, right? But for the most part, just to generalize it though, because you still do need to be aware, and expectation can be utilized or whatever when you're trying to be free and you're trying to do things for God. You're trying to be in the presence of Yahweh and be, you know, feet on ground and Gucci Manitou and have the right direction to see where the water flow and see where your emotions could go in the right favor, or however the case may be. A lot of times that do take practice, or a lot of times that do take being aware and utilizing the devil because you know what to expect. So, you know, don't look past. Don't sweep it up under the rug. Don't put it in the esoteric backseat of your spaceship or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? A thief is a thief. You know what I'm saying? If it looked like one, it quack like one, look like a duck, it's one. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case may be. And it ain't for you to think you God, to think it ain't that and psych your own mind up. You lying to yourself. You are still in expectation. You're just in a different city and state. You're just in the gullible city and state. And people who live in the gullible cities and states in the esoteric world always got to pay esoteric currency, pay attention to getting taken advantage of, getting abused, not getting what you deserve, not getting what you worth, working extra hard to uphold the city and other spirits that's in charge there and stuff like that, that play out in the physical world. And every now and then you'll have close ones that work in that city, probably got a better job than you in that city, so you living more for them in a third dimension. That's how it'll play out, and that person ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like you Beavis trying to please Butthead. Man, where the classic shows at, man? Like, where all the classic stuff at? Get on game, man. Get on game, everybody. Get back in y'all creative bag. And start getting some of these wrestler directors to direct movies again and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Write a script for y'all or something like that. And all this woke movement that been infiltrated to make movies suck nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, step the game. Like, what's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? We ain't lose our spunk. America ain't lose the spunk. But look, check this out. Now, the key when it comes to having spiritual strength, right, is to fall. Now, the key is like this, right? For you to fall under a thought, or you can ride over a thought. Being under it means you're swimming. Being above it means you're flying. Always remember, be careful with biases, because you have your own biases. That's already one. And get lost into the duplications of biases and other people's biases. Then you get lost into a right or wrong. So if you're maybe sportsed out, biased out, religious out, all those things up under these energies, right? When you hear certain terminology and the baggage up under it, falling under a thought, you have the preconceived notion of negativity and your intent of being aware of this knowledge going to be faulty. Clear your mind when I say under a thought and that be a negative. Because it ain't what we do, it's how we do it. So that's for everything. And when you're in the spiritual world, there is no right or wrong and there is no lie when you're in that present state. And that's when you're close to God and God's children or whatever. And that's supposed to be emanated in areas where it's too much toxicity, too much clogginess, too much confusion, too much distraction, too much destruction, or whatever the case may be. Where these are just duplicated versions of clearing something out to still try to get to God. You're just doing it in a negative way or whatever the case may be. And you may be more lost into the physical and external other than the spirit and the mind that make the physical and external. So you're living out of order, not in sync. See what I'm saying? It's like real simple things that we take for granted because the energy is being transmuted through a pair of Michael Jordans. So what you may be willing to do with a pair of Michael Jordans don't have those qualities behind it that a person was in to make the pair of Jordans. So you're doing a whole bunch of things that lack to make the Jordans themselves. You will never be able to be rich making a pair of shoes and good silhouettes or whatever the case may be, but you're willing to fatigue and withdraw yourself and willing to go to jail and stand outside in a line at 6 a.m. in the morning and you ain't even at school or no college to get a pair of Jordans though. You get what I'm saying? You understand in the spiritual world how this ain't got nothing to do with Jordan? You see what I'm saying? But in the physical world, you made it all about Jordan. You made it all about the dollar bill. You made it all about the thing that didn't matter or whatever the case may be. But you know damn well the Jordan itself probably was an ugly Jordan or whatever the case may be. It was just the fact that you had the representation that it needed for you to feel comfortable in the back of the science class that day or whatever the case may be. And the common social norm energy of the person getting roasted with the everlasters on. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's real simple. But for the most part, like I said, I don't want you to have a negative annotation. Be a little free. So it's how you do it. So even when you got to fight fire with fire, yours justified. You got grace. Then you'll be able to pluck the small percentage scale of why you was in that situation in the first place, utilizing the gift that God gave you and grace and the reciprocation that others give you to be able to place yourself into a situation where you don't go through that experience again. Some people don't take that though. You know what I'm saying? Some people think they got away with something. And that's when you know you don't get away with anything. You know what I'm saying? God watches. You know, you don't get away with nothing. And it don't play out like an anthropomorphized situation. It play out like a mechanism. It's just how something works. You plant a seed, something grow. You jump in a swimming pool or at the beach, you got to swim the way the water flow. So it's the mechanism. So when we get into the spiritual world, you're crafting your first body and interacting with everybody else. And our minds come together and create the first aspects of direction and cities and states and building blocks. And those are neurons. Then it condenses and become the physical fleshly fluid and become the nuance to something. See what I'm saying? So for the most part, it's being aware of all angles and sides of where you at in the here and now. So it's important to be in the present. So in the spiritual world, you're in the here and now. Take ears to see, eyes to hear. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here and ears to see. You know what I'm saying? Because the first sounds is the first, and the awareness and the light, that's the first swimming pool or whatever the case may be. So you're building your first body from that. You're building your first mental body from that. Mental connections, explosions, and sounds. And if you don't know how to conduct these things, you're chaotic. You're not explosive. You're just all over the place. If you know how to conduct these things, you have a controlled explosion. So it'll transmute into a third dimension when you're communicating or discussing something with someone. You become sounded. You know what I'm saying? Your argument is sounded. Your way of coming across the circumstances sounded or whatever. I hear what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I get it. I feel it. It's impactful. I could go to that spiritual space and be aware of that for myself without the construct and filtering system of the words and the social norms we utilize for us to understand what we all experiencing with nobody being close to God. Nothing. No thing. You know what I'm saying? So when you become something, right, you become an expression of a thing. You know what I'm saying? That was no thing. You become an expression. So for the most part, this is what we're building. And once we understand those expressions, we understand what role it plays as a mental cinder block and with character and with position and the precision-ness and the preciseness of it and the shape. And every now and then, if you don't know how to carve it up, you become clocky. You become gobbleated, discombobulated. And that play out in the 1, 2, and 3rd dimension as a degenerate, a person who can't get themselves together, can't mentally get a grip. See what I'm saying? And it's a reason we use these words. But when you know how to put these words in this proper perspective or whatever the case may be, this allows you to know what you're doing each step. And when we know what we're doing, that's annoying. And then it builds off as a familiarity. Then that builds off as a comfortability. And even when we experience an unfamiliarity and experience an uncomfortability, you know what I'm saying? We're able to find satisfaction. We're able to find where we're not alone. We're able to, even if we're alone, we're able to find security, even if we're in a physical situation where there aren't no security. We're able to find comfort, even when it looked like another individual in that situation wouldn't even know what to do with themselves. They wouldn't even be able to find comfort or whatever the case may be. And we can see examples of this, a person who reached these states in the spiritual world, even in prisons and jail, who don't crash out like the other individual who just got life. You know what I'm saying? So these are just spiritual things that we have to do with ourselves. And then once we understand that, we understand life is much more greater than what we are physically constructing ourselves in when it comes to social norms and conduits and getting a pair of Jordans. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about being aware and understanding that you are a walking bias for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Now, when it comes to from a distance, even seeing if individuals don't like you or whatever, you don't let your biases get in the way. So even when it comes into a dislike, you're open enough to know that it's a possibility you may come around. And when you do start to express it through the physical world, there's nothing around to throw a stick of stone at you because it was a form of an Abaddon you didn't express anyway. You locked it in the goddamn next to a jail cell, so a person didn't really know the high percentage scale of your dislike. They might have seen little pieces there, but it wasn't high enough that if you came around, a person has a disregard for it or whatever. Or vice versa, something you like and now dislike. You didn't show a much of an energy you was lost in, being spiritually lost in that form externally, so you're not going to get a lot of that negative energy back when you choose to switch up or whatever. This is how you stay light and free, and you're able to have more intelligence about what's actually going on with the scenario in the first place. Now, when you're around other individuals that may be lost, they're deep in something. They have a lot on their mind. They don't know how to kind of compartmentalize these things. They're not sharp bricks in the spiritual world. All you got to do is be quiet. It could be your family, friends, associates, co-workers, strangers, or whatever the case may be, right, that you are aware of. Broad and vague negative opinions indirectly about something you do or are involved in is all you need to know. You know what I'm saying? There may be things that you may start to develop relationships. You might be in college or whatever the case. And this happens a lot in college or fraternities or, you know, stuff where a person have to go through this a lot to realize, wait, I got to be better on how I pick friends or whatever, or pick who I think I'm going to start businesses with outside of this circumstance. You know what I'm saying? We see this in white collar, blue collar business or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Where certain backgrounds or whatever, and just the way the situation is, if you're not careful, you will hear a lot of these things. A person will have an opinion that's indirectly against something that you do, based upon y'all separating from that and having joint businesses or having common interests or whatever the case may be. That gets swept up under the rug or whatever the case may be. But 9 times out of 10, that's that same business partner that later on down the line going to backstab you or crash out the business or cause you to be in that position of having to backstab them or crash out the business because you wasn't realizing the original intent. See what I'm saying? The original intent. So when it comes into the original intent, if you ain't know how a person start to justify the percentage scale of how they're going to relate to you, you're not going to see how it may be higher on a percentage scale of negativity due to the fact of the broad or the vague. And a lot of times it come in that form first. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much all the time. Broad and vague. Negative annotations, though, and opinions indirectly about something you do. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. We got Jennifer Lopez, we got all these people and stuff like that. But think about a lot of girls that may have got thrown off that track without realizing what I'm talking about, to make it simple right now so we ain't getting into spooky land. And we talk about dancing that start off as twerking or whatever the case may be. You may have certain family, friends, or associates or whatever, especially if you shelter a little bit and you got someone who want to put you in a position of adding on to their business when they're done or whatever, right? They may say certain things out that ain't direct, but it's about something else or whatever the case may be. Hey, this person didn't make as much money as the lead singer because they was just a backup dancer or whatever the case may be. But you know that's not directly what you do, but you know that this person, this close person or whatever, probably seen you twerk or seen you dance or probably seen you trying to do some choreography dancing or whatever the case may be, right? That's all you need to know. Now let's say that's swept up under the rug because both of y'all got this other business going, psychology business going, or exercise business going, or you know what I'm saying, having a car dealership business or whatever the case may be, right? You not taking the importance of just you being you on your leisure for you to develop that in the first place to be motivated to do any communion with anybody else that ain't got nothing to do with that. You ain't taking that to consideration. That's going to become internal tit for tat because frustration is going to start to from that area going to start to pour over into areas that y'all both agree with and things of that nature. And it always start off as talking behind one individual's back or the other about things that ain't even got nothing to do with the general intent. And you're supposed to know y'all wasn't in the same path in some way, shape, or form. So when a person may have said something, you already know that they're already on the path of separating from you when the time is needed, especially if y'all both are needed for the grounding stages of whatever y'all starting or whatever the case. But that original thing that they said, if you didn't take that in consideration and start working towards other areas where people who don't got that funk or whatever the case may be, you will be on VH1 10 years later saying, yeah, I started a group with this person and we was coloring me bad. You know what I'm saying? I want to sex you up. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I'm saying? Oh, wanna say you. But you know what I'm saying? I thought you was in that group or whatever, and then all y'all was scamming each other or whatever because you wasn't peeping game. One dude ain't like the way the other dude dressed or whatever. You should have said that earlier. Man, yeah, I used to like this one football player and stuff like that, but I had to stop liking him because of the way he dressed. You forgot you had on them type of shorts or whatever. So you like swept up out of the rug. You know what I'm saying? You should have known that goddamn little fizz was getting ready to fuck your bitch. You be tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna that. You should have knew that way long. You should have known that way long time ago. You about to join a group, dude. Talking about, yeah, I'm about to make something. When I put my lyrics on this track, I'm making sure I'm hitting everybody's baby moms and stuff like that. You should have took that into consideration. You ain't think you was too busy. Dun dun dun, touch dun dun dun, touch. You too busy. Oh, sit over there. Shout out to B2K and the Bow Wow tour. Who wanna go see that? We go to any concert, any female. You know what I'm saying? We go. It's our next date. We're going on a concert. We're going to see somebody on stage. Be a damn coon. Until Libra time. You know what I'm saying? Over that. But yeah, y'all say y'all gotta peep game, man. A lot of times, just gotta peep game, read the signs ahead of time. Person will show you, they'll say it, they'll express it or whatever. So a person for them to even express something, it mattered to them in the mind. So they expressing it and it's playing out as small forms of physical matter. You getting a packed by before it becomes situations and stuff. You gotta know a person thought about it a little bit more than you think they thought about it when they said it. Y'all, that's a lot of times why you sweep it up under the rug or whatever. You think it wasn't really an investment. No, a person take a whole lot of time when they by themselves to think about that. It came out lighter than it actually was. You know what I'm saying? When they by themselves or around people y'all all know that just have at it when you ain't around. They have at it about you. You know what I'm saying? They have at it about you or whatever. You probably be playing that same game. You be having the same person. They'll do it with you. You do it to them. They'll do it to you. They're all over the place. All y'all nuts. All y'all nuts ass humans and stuff like that. And then we gonna get it together. Then we gonna get it because we in the space age right now. Everybody more intelligent, so everybody don't want to even appear to be stupid. So people second questioning even if they is dumb. Should I express being dumb today? You know what I'm saying? And that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? People trying to self check themselves and all kind of stuff. Y'all need to know though, when you get them certain energies, man, that person is more where that energy came from. Don't sweep that back. Don't sweep that under the rug. You know what I'm saying? Don't end up on DJ Vlad for us all to see later, and now you complaining about you shouldn't have joined that group or something like that. Nah. You got Archangel Uriel right now in the goddamn space age or whatever the case. You should be like, oh yeah, I did hear that. I did see that. Oh, I did know how this person really thought. I didn't give it too much of a thought because how they made it pretty and nice and said it, and it wasn't direct. It was indirect. They was talking about maybe they favorite actor or actress or actor or rapper or singer or wrestler or something like. Maybe they was talking about that or something like. You know, said it. You know, you just swept it up under the rug. But nah, it was all about you. It was all about you. Until you start to realize that, you will save a lot of heartache when it comes to you and dealing with your relationships and your goddamn it people that you close to and who you should start something with or not. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times it'd be too late. So much too much like too much goddamn little feather on the end of the goddamn Brita kind of man. Ink pen start to get signed with your name up under it, somebody else's name, other name. Y'all get this job. That's it. That's it. Oh, so that's it. There's a lot of groups right now. You know what I'm saying? You know who New Edition is? You know Ralph and Body. You know what I'm saying? Real stuff like I'm telling you, this don't got to be. We talking spiritually speaking. This could just be amongst you, your friends, family, associates, co-workers, because all y'all got some goddamn main character syndrome. All y'all think y'all the star or something or whatever the case may be. But it be playing out that way sometimes. If you don't check yourself, and a lot of times you don't be a star for nobody else but the devil. Expectation, and you expect somebody else. How do y'all be in so much demonic expectation and stuff like that? You amongst other people that y'all just y'all should all expect to be backstabbed from each other. Y'all should all you know what I'm saying? You should all expect to be scammed. My scamming, damn it! My scamming, my scamming. Oh, saying you should expected it. She had on red bottoms. Y'all met up at the hotel. You should expected to get robbed blind. You know what I'm saying? You should expect it to get backdoored. You know what I'm saying? You should expect it. Yeah, that's when you're supposed to learn about the devil, though. He was saying the devil was supposed to give you signs and stuff that was already there. Oh, spring, summer, fall, and winter. It's a possibility that tree can grow the same area that it grew last year, that spring. It's a possibility the fruit might not be that same color, and the goddamn leaves might not turn orange during fall time in that same area the same time it did last. You gotta counterpartmentalize where God at. God, sometimes you can't find it because you too busy anthropomorphizing. You be trying to hear something for real, see something for real. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever, feel, hear, taste, touch, or whatever, or think, or whatever. And it'll always be that. You know, and even those be filtered through expectation. You be like, man, I expect to breathe right now. All right, I gotta think about that no more. I'm already intelligent. All right, so everybody around me already retarded. You know what I'm saying? Like you already be some deep expected, deep that the devil done taught you wrong. The devil done taught you to be a goddamn degenerate. The devil done taught you to be a goddamn degenerate. But I love all y'all from the bottom of my heart. Oh my God's children out there. We all God's children. I love all y'all. Flight boss beep, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the bottom of the Terry's Moon. I am the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry God duties and beep, 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 responsibilities and duties and obligations. Beep, beep. Rector Swah, Hill, Hold that Yellow, Who? Massasoit, Mama the Toy. Woo! Masasaki, Makatoa, Makasaki.